When Abraham Lincoln and Stephen A. Douglas ran for the Illinois Senate seat in 1858, they did something unusual. They held public debates. Another unusual feature of this campaign was that they didn't talk about the usual state issues of taxes and farm prices. Instead, they talked about the Dred Scott decision, the Constitution of Kansas, the Declaration of Independence, and the concept of popular sovereignty. But what they were really debating was the future of slavery and the future of the Union. Here are some other features that made this debate series quite unusual.
None of the voters in that crowd cast a ballot for either Lincoln or Douglas. In those days, senators were chosen by state representatives. The thousands of people who came to see the two men debate would not decide which one would become senator. The debates were highly popular events, sometimes drawing crowds of 20,000. But some people disliked the idea of a Senate race becoming a public event, and thought the debates were just a way for candidates to draw attention to themselves. A newspaper called the Southern Argus wrote, "The whole country is disgusted with the scene now exhibited in the state of Illinois. Senatorial candidates should be beyond the reach of the maddening issues of the hour." The debates drew national attention. The issue of slavery was foremost in America's mind. It had divided the country into slave and free states and already started a shooting war in Kansas. But so much of the discussion until then had been heated arguments between partisans and demagogues. Now, two prominent lawyers would openly, intelligently debate the legality and morality of slavery, and whether Americans had a right to choose whether their states would outlaw the slave trade. It was the first campaign to receive modern media coverage. There was so much national interest in the debates that newspaper correspondents covered all 7 events. Every word of the candidates was taken down in shorthand. Halfway through the debate, the notes would be handed to runners who rushed them to waiting trains. On the way to Chicago, the notes were transcribed, ready to be set in print for the next day's edition. Douglas won, and he lost. Douglas had accepted Lincoln's challenge to debate because he thought that defeating Lincoln publicly would make him look like the better choice to the state electors. More important, it would raise his visibility for his campaign for the White House in 1860. But Lincoln did better than expected. By the final debate, Douglas was worn out, and Lincoln had shown that Douglas's policy of popular sovereignty regarded slavery as merely a political question with no moral consequences. That October, Illinois representatives chose Douglas, but it had been a close victory, and now Douglas had raised his opponent to national prominence, which would be a problem when they both ran for president in 1860.
One last thing that makes these debates interesting. Today we think of campaign speeches as filled with empty rhetoric, long on wind, short on substance, filled with the sort of promises that get votes but don't mean anything because they'll be forgotten once elected. The things Lincoln said in those debates became part of his policy as president. They became part of American history, and they became a part of his lasting legacy.